and Pat as long as you're going to be tonight.
Actually, I'm looking forward to it. That game the other night, I had to tell my parents it might be the first time in like 2 decades that I was a true fan, screaming at the television, just because you wanted it so bad for them. And it was just this series by far is the best they've had. And
Dee, I've been saying I wish I wasn't a Sixers fan right now because obviously I'm one-sided. I'm rooting for the Sixers, but this series, if you're a basketball fan, if you're a Pistons fan and you're watching Sixers Knicks right now, this is a highly entertaining series.
It really is. I mean, I've seen a lot of them. Obviously, one, I was treated to some really, really good ones because those 2 series with Milwaukee and the Raptors went 7 games.
Yeah.
You had 50 points from AI, Vince, whatever. That's as good as I can remember. Maybe I lose track if there were other series that I wasn't as invested. But, I mean, come on. These games have been something to watch.
When you see what happened in Game 5, is there anything you take away from it that says to you, this is really promising for Game 6?
I think it's funny. I had, I do these pregame video posts, and I had said, Philly tough versus New York grit. And if you think about it, it was both, only it was maybe grit from Philly and toughness from New York. So I see promising that I don't believe they will turn it over to the extent they did. I don't know if after the series or when the season ends, we'll find out if Joel's vision was impaired, but some of those were just so not characteristic of who he is. He's a good passer, and there were some that were just like, what just happened there? 7 of those turns coming in the fourth quarter. So I don't think I'm going to see that tonight. I find it encouraging that Tobias obviously had a good game, but I think Tobias said they designed plays for him out of the gate. That's why he had the first 5 points. So I hope they do that again, and I hope he feels it again.
You mentioned sorry, Dee. You mentioned the uncharacteristic turnovers from Joel Embiid, the 9 of them that he had in Game 5. How much credit do you give Nick Nurse? And I know it wasn't even for 2 minutes. It was about 1 minute and 42 seconds. But in the fourth quarter, Nick Nurse decided to put Joel Embiid on the bench to let him regroup. How much credit do you give Nick Nurse to do that? Because that can't be an easy decision to make, saying, I'm going to put the MVP on the bench just to kind of regroup mentally for 1.5 minutes.
I give him a ton of credit. And I say, a lot of us wouldn't have the courage to do it if that was our job, especially when you're staring, Andrew, at the fact that he's plus 48 when he's on the floor and minus 46 when he's off. So, I mean, those are staggering numbers. And you're in the guts of the game in the fourth quarter. But, clearly something was off. And, again, I don't know if it has to do with his, dealing with his illness. Maybe, maybe not. But something was off. And for him to say, get the guy out and let's let him think for a minute or have somebody talk to him for a minute, whatever they did, obviously it paid off because, I listened to a lot of people think he had a horrible game. Well, if you're judging, he didn't have 50 points, he didn't shoot like he normally shoots, okay. But we say great players find other ways to have their fingerprints on a game. Josh Hart in the game before, 0 for 7, but pulls down 17 rebounds.
Right.
Are we saying he had his fingerprints on the game? So this guy has a triple-double. He has monster defensive plays down the stretch. He had the mid-range shot in overtime. Please, he did impact that game. You do not win that game without his defense. Obviously, Tyrese Maxey was the man, and, we'll talk about that.